That was a sample of conversations that students from the working classroom in Albuquerque had about our state's education system. They also talked about food systems and other models for education around the world. Go to NewMexicoInFocus.org to see more. It's really terrific. Now, welcome back to the Line Table. This week we got news that we were all dreading when Moody's Investor Services downgraded the state's bond rating amid concerns of pension liabilities, increasing Medicaid enrollments, and certainly our recent budget challenges. The impact of the downgrade is for potential higher borrowing rates on infrastructure projects like roads, water, sewage. It all leads to the ongoing question about whether or not local governments from municipalities, to the state are doing enough, Justine, to turn our economy around. I guess my fundamental first question is, what is the role of government in things like this? This is one of the interesting discussions we have here in New Mexico. We don't have a lot of private churn. So government must have a role in economic development. So the question is how much and when? What's your overall philosophy about this?
Sure, and obviously in Albuquerque and in New Mexico, we're very dependent on government, more than most states. But I think government's role starts out with just providing the basics, the fundamentals. Look at Albuquerque.
An educated citizenry, all that kind of thing.
A safe citizenry, a citizenry who can walk down the street without tripping over needles and getting their car windows bashed in.
Yep.
And you look at what Tim Keller has in front of him as he's just taken office in the city, and what the new police chief has here in Albuquerque. That's really the first thing that we have to address before we can entice businesses to come. The other problem is we're really playing catch up. I mean, this has been going on for a number of years.
That's right.
We were just talking about immigration, population inflows. We've been losing population and we've been losing businesses here. And partly, I'm a limited government, small government person, but partly due to the failings of government to provide the basics. 8 years ago, we're really good at film and TV and animation here. That's one thing that's worked well.
Right.
I remember 8 years ago, we lost Sony Pictures, Sony Animation downtown, 120 very high wage jobs,
Thank you.
six-figure jobs.
Yep.
Because they couldn't stop people from breaking into their cars, and the city couldn't post one person there to prevent that from happening. So they're pretty, government has limitations and I think in terms of what it can do in economic development, but those basics are critical. And I think before we can start talking about complex tax incentives and attracting businesses with hopefully high wage jobs.
That's
We
right.
can talk about whether Topgolf meets those. We got to do the basics.
That's right.
And
That's right.
and we're not doing that.
I
very
appreciate
well.
that, setting up that foundational aspect to this. That makes sense. And Eric, one of the other issues that came out, just the bond rating, those things kind of come and go. We can't do anything about that as citizens, but we just found out a lot of us make a lot less money than our counterparts across the country. A recent report says we're almost 10% under most wages, but even 15 to 20% depending on your occupation. It's really a difficulty to get things going when you're consistently underpaid like this, isn't it? It's hard. That was a blow.
But these are fundamental to the strategy that we've pursued and that the sort of the economic development leadership for generations have pursued, which is this low wage, race to the bottom economy. Like, come here, we're a little bit cheaper and less benefits than the developing world, the third world, right? And I think the pension system speaks to that. One of the most fundamental things after working your whole life, you should be able to have a pension, and frankly, that's a huge part of our economic development. Retirees and people who actually spend money to live for the basics, right?
That's right.
Part of the reason why that's underfunded and it's affected our bond rating is because we've made decisions to incentivize corporate tax breaks, to lower taxes on the wealthiest, to basically blow a huge revenue hole in our state budget. And it's the same forces at the local level, right? So the idea is, I totally agree with Justine that we have to invest in the basics, but to me the basics aren't crime. The basics are what kind of early childhood do we have? What kind of education system do we have? What's the human capital element of this? New Mexico continues to try to do this by bribing companies to be here, by offering the lowest wages, instead of saying, wait a minute, we've got to break this cycle. We've got to start investing in people. We have to have a higher quality of life. We shouldn't have the business community fighting against a provision, for example, on paid sick leave where people can go spend time with their kids or take care of their elders, because the communities that are doing well, Austin And the communities that we aspire to be like actually are investing in their people. They're not offering wild incentives for places to come. They do that because they have a workforce and a quality of life and a belief in human capital. And that's where we've fallen down, whether it's pensions, whether it's wages, whether it's quality of life. We've just decided, India's, we're almost as cheap as India, but we're in the United States. So like, why don't you come here? And frankly, India's starting to do a better job than we are on
It
some of these
infects
things.
all of us here. I can't tell you guys how many tech conferences I've hosted where it's guaranteed every time, Laura, someone will say, we're cheaper here. That word cheap is always out there. Cheap, cheap, cheap. It drives me absolutely crazy. This is the result, it seems to me. Your sense of this wage thing, I'm curious your take on this. Some industries, I think it was architecture and engineering, they do pretty okay, but everybody else was way behind. That hurts.
Lawyers are getting whacked.
Lawyers were, exactly.
Oh, and we've had low wages here. I know people say, oh, attorneys make a ton of money. I mean, I was making a third of what my counterparts in California, same education,
right.
Same, getting out of school at the same time,
right.
And I was getting paid a third here of what they could make in California,
wow.
doing the exact
difference.
same kind of work. And so, a huge difference. And so you move here and you live here, you're automatically taking a pay cut from what you could make somewhere else. However, I mean, there's other reasons, obviously, we want to be here. Right. There is a lower cost of living. One of the things, it's important to unpack sort of what the bond rating downgrade means. And I know we're focused, and at the beginning you focused on the Medicaid part and you focused on the pension issues, and those are two big reasons, but they weren't the only reasons that Moody's downgraded. It was also the volatile severance taxes from oil and gas.
That's right.
So it isn't just the fact that, it was just, large Medicaid amounts and large pension obligations, but it's the fact that we have a very volatile, it's not a very long-term stable idea in terms of getting the severance taxes from oil and gas. Right now, oil and gas is doing well.
Right.
So we're seeing increases and, we're seeing budget surplus, but that long-term hasn't always been the case. And we just recently went from being in the opposite situation. The other thing that's been affected by this also is that they noted in the report in downgrading was the fact that there was weak financial oversight. So some of the financial protections, which I know has been an issue at the legislature in recent sessions, that hasn't really been adopted, widespread adopted, but compared to other states and the kinds of financial protections that other states see, we don't have as strong ones here, although they're improving.
Right.
And so, it's important also to keep in mind that this was a downgrade from AAA1 or AA1 to AA2, which is still investment grade for New Mexico. It's not good that it was a downgrade because that does mean that you end up with higher interest rates potentially.
Right.
But we're also talking about general obligation bonds for the state.
Right.
Those are different from bond ratings that occur at the local level. But whatever local governments can do in terms of trying to bring more economic development does impact overall the increases in potential gross receipts taxes and other revenue, property taxes, a lot of other types of employment taxes, for example. So I think overall we do need to, work on a comprehensive, approach to bringing up the economic development in the state.
Good point. I like that wrap there. That's actually a good point there. Dan, who's in charge of economic development in the city of Albuquerque? That's my question. Who do you think is in charge of that?
Wow, that's obviously we've got everybody fighting for a small piece of the pie, from the Hispano Chamber, the Albuquerque Chamber, the Economic Development Foundation. But I think if economic development, and the people on the table have made some good points. Obviously, I differ with some of the points. I mean, Justine's right on. It doesn't matter what we have to offer. If we're number one in violent crime, number one in cars being stolen, if we're 50th in educating your kids, I don't know what early childhood development is going to do, and we're the worst state in educating our kids as it is right now. It just doesn't attract people. People don't want to come here.
Right.
We lose someone like Sony because of crime. We also lost Sony because of the internet connection. They couldn't maintain the conductivity they needed at the level they needed. Right, we don't have that.
That's right.
We want to encourage people to work from home. Yeah, go live out in Placitas and work from home on your 1G, internet that you get.
I've had to. It's
let
me ask you this. Justine brought up Topgolf. It's sort of hovering around the room. We got to get to it.
Sure.
The deal's been done. It's there. The Keller administration has a couple of moves, but I'm not sure if they're going to make it. What's your say? I mean, we have a city councilor in this situation, in essence, making a citywide decision.
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, I got to tell you, I don't know Tim Keller that well. So far, other than the tax increases that he said he wouldn't do without going to the voters that he's done, I mean, he seems to be talking about some common sense stuff, right? He's like, we got to get clawbacks in here. We got to make sure that we're getting the jobs hired. You know, I've long been an advocate. Gene, we've talked about this for years when you worked for Heather Wilson in economic development. I've never been a big fan of giving Intel and P&M and all these guys millions and millions of dollars. I'm a firm believer that if you went around and helped the small business guy who had 2 employees, 10 years from now, they're still going to have a job.
That's right.
And so at some point, what we've done in this state is we have failed to capitalize on the initial investments, right, wrong, or indifferent. You look at the labs we have. We are doing a phenomenal job of starting technology, and when it goes to the private sector market, it don't do it in New Mexico.
Right.
It goes to Colorado, it goes to California, it goes to Austin, Texas. We at some point, everybody's got to roll their sleeves up, put aside the partisanship, and we've got to invest some money in saying, what does it take for us to go from worst to first, and how do we become that place that attracts these
I'm
businesses?
going to get out, but let me ask Eric the same question. Was a bad precedent set here by having council so strong on something that adds up to almost $2.5 million in incentives, a new road, cash money? I mean, these guys worked out well.
They went through the
It worked out
process,
great for Top.
but they went through the process. They overrode his veto. I mean,
Right.
That's
No, actually, they did. It is a mistake. So I sponsored the local economic development when I was a city councilman, and I also sponsored the IRB legislation for clawbacks. And the reason is,
Right.
you know, I didn't always agree with the mayor at the time, as
Sure.
we know, but we had to have a process so that we weren't just handing out incentives to everybody who comes from, because everybody's going to ask for them. These guys at Topgolf probably would have come here anyway in Dallas, but if they knew that there was something kind of sweeten the pot, and
That's
to go
right.
around the executive and just say,
That's
well,
right.
who's going to cut the best deal with me? It really does undermine. You know, the mayor really, to your question, is supposed to be the chief economic development, the chief champion for any city, and if he isn't the person, and it's any counselor who has parochial interest, at the end of the day, it's probably going to be a good thing for the city. Did we need to throw the kind of money? By the way, some of this money came from the general fund. This is
right.
stuff we're not using for homelessness, for crime, that we're giving this company just so they create essentially a tourist attraction.
There you go.
So-
Glad
And
I
it's
got you.
really,
Go, please.
I know you got to finish the
That's
site.
all right.
It's really emblematic of our weak mayor system here,
Okay.
and less accountability.
Yeah.
And Eric lived in it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad you got that in. It is a good point. I'll have to wrap that there. Now, coming up, I speak with the head of the Office of African American Affairs about a new report on the wellness of black children here in New Mexico.